In this video, we are going to continue with revision exercise 5. And in this video, we are only going to focus on sequences. You will find this exercise on page 223 in the Namibia Ordinary Level Mathematics textbook, y equals mx plus c to success. Now, before I'm starting, and there it starts 5 and 6, I just quickly want to do revision of sequences. So go to your textbook on page 206. And again, you can look, and maybe I'm going to do it here. Go to the table of content and let's see sequences. Okay, it's not this one. Okay, we are here. It's not this one. And there, do you see it? So if I'm looking here, I'm just going to say, okay, there is sequences and it starts on page 206. Okay, that's also how you can find a topic. So let's find page 206. This is next. I think it's already there. Okay, now I'm not going to focus on the basics. I first want, it's just APs and GPs, but look at the patterns. It's very good that you revise all the patterns, that you see what is square numbers, what is cube numbers, and that. But I want to focus more on just and how to find the patterns. Look there, you can go through that blocks. But I want to start with APs and GPs. And I just want to highlight a few things here before I do that exercise. Okay, here it is. So if I'm looking at this, I'm just going to, and this is very important. You must know the difference between an AP and a GP. And I'm going to give you an example. And I think we can just work even with these examples. So if I'm going to say, okay, where is it now? Okay, let's just write it down. Negative 40, negative 25, negative 10, 5. Now, always, you must know that the AP, this is term 1, this is term 2, this is term 3, this is term 4, and so on. So AP, you will always do subtraction. So you take the one in front and you subtract the one behind. Take the one in front, subtract the one in behind. Take the far one in front, subtract. So if you can then get the same answer. So let's try. Let's test. Is it the AP? So if you say negative 25, and please put your brackets, otherwise you're going to get confused, is that equal to negative 10 minus negative 25? And that will give negative 25 plus that 40. Is that equal to negative 10 plus 25? And if I look at this, this 15 will be equal to that 15. You don't have to put, I think the best will be, I like always to write it nice. Don't put an equal sign there. Then there's too many equal signs. Rather just make this. Okay. Oh, it's equal. It's equal. Can I just show you my mistake? It's equal. It's not equal. It's equal. So therefore, it's an AP. Okay, but if you were testing a GP, you would have said, okay, negative 25 divide negative 40, negative 10 divide negative 25. That would not be equal, so therefore it's not a G. So always, first step, test if it's an AP, test if it's a GP. So if I'm going to the next one, and I want to show you in B, and again go through the blocks, even if you just look at it and just refresh your memory. So remember, this is term 1, this is term 2, this is term 3, this is term 4. And again, if you subtract, you see that's 12. And that's very big. It's not the AP. But if you test, I'm going to do the test for a GP. So T2 divide T1. Always the one in front, divide the one behind. And let's just see. T2, so it's 14 over 2. And if it's equal to 98 over 14. And I take my calculator. Now I know 14 divided by 2, that's nice, that's 7. Let's see. And 98 divide 14, and that's also 7. Oh, so therefore it's a GP. So for me, the step one, if you get a sequence, test to see if you are at APs or if you are at GPs. They call this in APs, they call the constant difference. That's the value of D. And in GPs, they call it the constant ratio, the value of R in the formulas. Okay, so for me, first thing that you have to do now, and you can just, and if they bring algebra in, it's just nice. I don't think they will go so challenging, but it's not difficult. Then they will tell you it's a GP, so then you start with the formula for the test of a GP, and it's just algebra. We have one term equal one term, you cross multiply, it's an equation, you factorize it, common factor, and you get your values. Okay, I want to focus, and this picture, and a lot of students, when they, and I'll show you now the summary, and then because you have to memorize these formulas, otherwise you will not be able to do sequences. But I'll show you now, it's not a lot. But usually students struggle to find N and Tn and that kind of things. But can I just show you? This is a race. There's 3 people in the race. Now, if I look at the results, now it's almost like you run the comrades. It's not to say that number 1 will be first and number 2 will be second and number 3 will be third. No, you have a number. It can be on your back or in front. So the number that came first was 10. And the number who came second was 15. And the number who came third was 20. Now, I always say to students, it's like this. This is term 1, this is term 2, this is term 3. So it is the value of n in the formulas. The value of n, and I'm going to say this is an AP. And I want to find a specific term. Then it's Tn equals A plus bracket. And I put sometimes the D in front, but it can also be in bracket n minus 1 D. Okay, now this Tn is represented, that's the number. So if this was, say, this was the second term, then that would have been 15. So the second term is 15. That's the number in front or at the back of you. This A is always the first. So the first one in the sequence, that's A. Are you with me? And N, now N, and don't forget, that's the position. That's what was your position in the race. This person was first. This position was 1. So his value of n is 1. This person was second. So his value of n is 2. And this person was third. So his value of n is 3. And that is why n can never be negative. You're running a race and you are saying, oh, I did so bad, I came negative second. No, did you reverse or what did you do? No, you cannot get in a race negative second. You can get second, but not negative. So a second. Also, n cannot be negative 2. The same. Oh, I was almost second. I was 2.5. No, sorry, you cannot be 2.5. So you were either second or you were third. So n can just be a whole number, and it's actually not whole, it's a natural number starting from 1. So you can be first, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's very important to remember. And then D, as I said to you, that was the constant difference, and in GPs it will be the constant ratio. So just remember this picture, that Tn, the number, this Tn is the number in front or at the back, A is the first term, N is your position in the race, and D is that constant, that in this case it will be 5. So if you take a front and you subtract the back. Okay, I just want to quickly, and I think I'm just going to show you, I just like to sometimes put the D in front, but it can also be at the back. And the reason why I'm doing it is just because then it's easier to multiply. But this is Tn, if you want to find that number in front or at the back. Okay, and then they can determine the 10th term, so that they ask T10, Do you see T10? You just write down the formula. You write A is 3. You find the value of, you first have to determine if it's an AP or GP. But this is AP. 7 minus 3 is 4. 11 minus 7 is 4. So D is 4. It's good to first get that. And they want the 10. So 10th position. So N will be 10, and I just substitute. And then they just play around with the formulas, and it's really not that challenging. Determine which term in the sequence is this. So this is the number in front or at his back. So that's Tn, and they just want to find the value of n. But you always start with the formula as you know it. It's an AP. How do you know? You have to test. So you say 8 minus 4, it's negative 6. 2 minus 8 is negative 6. So it's an AP. So do first the test. And then you start and say, okay, I have the value of A is 14. I know the value of D is negative 6. They want to find N, the position. But I know that Tn, the number on his front or back, is negative 28. And now I memorize this formula. For an AP, it's going to be, and let's write it down, A plus D. I'm just going to go keep to the textbook. And then I just put in 4. But now in the place of Tn, I put negative 28. It's just like algebra. Okay, so, and the D, it's going to be negative 6. And I'm looking for N. And then I basically, that's what I got there. Did you see there? Just want to make it red. Okay, and now I just multiply, and it's just algebra. I take this term over. Why do I take this term over? Oh, let's undo it. What's going on? Okay, I take it over because I want it to become positive. And then I take that over, and it's just an algebraic equation. And then I get the 8th term will be negative 28. Okay, it's just playing around with that formula. And now they can ask you A and D also. And again, just do an example and you will realize, but it's the same. So usually they ask you 2 things now. But again, the question will be like this. The 5th term of an AP is 8 and the 12th term is 50. And you just start and you just write the formulas and you fill in. The number is 8. And I know it's the 5th term, so the value of n is 5. I don't know A and D. I know the 12th term is what? Is 50, and the value of A and D, and what is the value of n? It's 12. And then I'm just getting this. And now think of algebra chapter 4. I take these 2 unknowns, but it's still linear. I solve them simultaneously. Okay, can you still recall that? And if you cannot recall it, I just want to see if I can find that page quickly for you. I wrote it down here at simultaneous equation. It's on page 133. So if you cannot recall, just go back to page 133 and just refresh your memory. One must cancel out, so I multiply negative. It cancel out. I get the value of D 6. I substitute and I get the value of A. So this is like also practicing simultaneous equations. Okay. Now, very important. In this, I was just find Tn. Now I do the same with a GP. More or less the same. The formula is just different. What is the formula? I'll show you now the formulas at the end. And now it's just going to be, there is the formula, which I have to memorize. Tn equals AR. Now it's not D, n minus 1. And again, determine the 6th term. So it's T6. But it's a GP because 1 divide 2, a half divide 1. Okay, so what is the value of R? It's a half. Do you see that? And N, it's the 6th term, is 6. And I want to find Tn. It's just substitution, and I get it. And now again, they're playing around. And now logs will come in. Nice how the algebra is used. But it's not in this one. I think in the next one, logs will come in. So determine which term in the sequence is equal. Now, it's like, this is 2, they run, and the number on his back or in front was 162. So that's Tn. Okay, it's not n. I want to determine which term I want n. I know this is Tn, but I want n. But I first write down my formula, and I memorized it. And now I put 162. And now I don't know, I know A. What is A? 2. And I know, and now I'm back with chapter 5, indices, or in this chapter. And what is the value of R? I know 6, it's also 3. And now, what do I do usually? I just first go into divide by 2. Do you see this nice indices? Okay. And now, I can use logs. There I did it. I want to make it bigger, that you see better. Okay. Do you see? And then I basically just make the bases the same, just like I did in the previous video, but you can use logs also, where you put log on this side, and then if the bases are the same, one term equals one term, I say 4 is equal to n minus 1, and I just solve it, and it's the fifth term. Okay, there I showed you how to do it with logs. Okay, the next one. And now, again, and this is a bit more challenging, okay, because it's now with exponents. Now, the fourth they give, it's just like I did simultaneous equations, but now just not addition and subtraction, just with division. So the fourth term is this and the sixth term. So I do it exactly the same, but now I divide them to cancel out the a's. And 5 minus 3, it's 2, and I divide, and I do, to get that square away, I take the square root on both sides. Okay, and it's plus minus. And then, basically, I think they told you the value of R is just bigger than 0, so I just go for the positive option, and I just get the value of A. Okay, just check it there. Okay, and then, I didn't go too deep into this. Now, the previous ones was every time I was finding Tn. So all that formulas was that number in front or the number at the back. Now, I'm just asking series. Now, series means, my pen is not working, I must add. So it's adding up. So it's like I give you a sequence. Just want to know. I give you a sequence, but now you must add it. So if I'm asking you, now it's not Tn, now I will say Sn. That means for sum. It's nice. You see in my Excel also that sum, and we're going to do that more in AS level. I think my sum is not good there. Okay, I think that one is better. But let's go too deep into that. Okay, so now, again, there's two formulas. So my formula for sum, and you have to memorize that. It's not so difficult. You memorize a lot of life, biology, physics, history. Just memorize a few mathematical equations. Okay, and now again, I'm looking for the sum of the first 20 terms. So I just substitute, the A is the first term, the D is the difference, and I get that. And I don't think I take it too difficult here. Finding N, and I'm just playing around now with that formula. I doubt it if it's making that line. Okay. How many terms must be to this? Now I just substitute in Sn. Do you see? And I must get N. And it's just algebra. So N over 2. And I simplify here. And then to get that 2, I multiply on the other side. And then it's quadratic. And if I see quadratic equations, I think of chapter 4 and I factorize. And don't forget, you are running athletics and your position is 8 over 3. No, you were not running. You were just playing around. Okay, so it cannot be a fraction. It cannot be negative. So the only valid value will be you. You reject 8 over 3 and your position, you were 11th in the race. Okay, can only be a positive whole number or even to say a natural number. Okay. Working with Tn, you can look at and find the sum of this, but here you must first get that this is Tn. You must first get the position, and if you have the position, you can, and don't forget that there's two formulas. You can either use this formula, or if they give you the last term, you can use this formula. Okay, and then GPs, and as I said, I just run quickly through the basics, not really so difficult. There is the formula again. Again, I just substitute in, I just like to say, and it's just, it will not influence, but I like to say, when the value of R is smaller than 1. That means a half, a quarter. Then because the formula say 1 minus Rn, then I put the ones in front, and the smaller one, that means the R at the back. And if it's bigger than 1, so if R is say 2, then I put the R. So the big one I basically put in front. But if I put the 1 in front, then that one must be in front. And if I put that R in front, then this R must also be in front. So just make sure that you don't make that mistake. Okay, and basically I'm just substituting, get my answer. Now how many terms in the series must give you this? And now I just substitute in Sn. And this is just my exponents in these C's. And basically, and I'm taking it over, make the bases the same, and I get the value of n. Okay, as I said, I don't think they will go too difficult, but you can just look at this block also. In the find the smallest value of n for which it's less than. This is a bit complicated, but it's not so. So basically, value of n that less than 10. So I'm just going to say Tn is less than 10. So I'm just substituting, and now don't forget your inequality. So I'm to bring that down, I do logs to bring that variable down, and don't forget I didn't revise with you inequalities. But if you get inequalities, I just want to remind you, as soon as you divide by a negative, what must happen? Then this must turn around. This is swapping around. If you divide, it's just working like equations. If you divide by a positive, then it stays the same. But if you divide by a negative, it swaps around. Okay, and this is the reason you have to go and press on your calculator. Log 0.8, and that's a negative, and that, check here, that sign was swapping around. Okay, that's a bit challenging. So I would say if you, for the AS levels, yes, definitely test this one. For the other ones, maybe just focus first on the basics. That will also help you in the exams, but it's not so difficult. You can go and try, and I think if you look at my previous videos, you will find that I did this one. So go and look at that video. Okay, and now we are ready. We did a little bit. But before I start, I just want to say, I'm going to the summary. Please, you have to learn this. Actually, this whole page is important. So, how do I determine if it's an AP or a GP? What is the Tn, the number in front or at the back? Formulas for AP and GP. What is the formula for S, the sum? So it's if you have the last term, otherwise it's 2a d n minus 1, and then this 2. So please go and memorize these formulas. I will reflect you back. I'm not going to rewrite it. So if I come to that sum. Okay, but let's do one. Let's do number 5 and 6. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 8, 64, 32. Form a geometric progression. Oh, they tell you. No. Why do I do this one? I skip 5. Sorry. Again, it's a little bit early. It's not necessary to make mistakes. There's not the A. There's just a 5. Okay, we just correct it. The fourth, and I like to underline, the 14th term of an AP, I like to write for myself AP, is negative 19. And the 9th term, I take another color, the 9th term is negative 4. Find the 5th term. Oh, it's a bit challenging, but we did the sum like this. Can you remember? It's that simultaneous equation. So we're just going to start with it. We're just going to run with it. So let's start. We're going to say the 14th, and I'm going to use my colors. What did I use? Red. The 14th term is negative 19. And blue. And the 9th term is negative 4. Okay, don't forget, I'm at the AP. What is the formula? Check. I want to show you. There. Do you see that formula? Okay, that's the formula I'm going to use. So I'm just going to say, don't forget, and I'm going to write it here, I'm going to work with the formula A plus D bracket n minus 1. I put the D in front. You can put it at the back. So I'm going to say, I usually write it like this. I first write it there, Tn equals A plus D n minus 1. And now I substitute. So it's negative 19. That is the number in front or at the back. And then A, I don't have A. I don't have D, but I know it's the 14th position. So I know it's going to be 14 minus 1. Okay, I do the same. And it's again not necessary to write down. I could just simplify that, skip that step. I would have preferred if that was more in yellow. Okay. Now I'm going to put 9. Now, negative 4. What is Tn? It's negative 4, the 9th. That's the number. So that's the number on the back or in, and that's the number at the back or in front. So negative 4, and then it's going to be again A plus D. And now, what is the position? 9. And now I'm just going to simplify. Right, can I just move it a little bit? So, okay, let's start with 1. Get my color. Negative 19 equals A plus 13D. I think leave it like first that. This is negative 4 equals A plus 8D. Okay, there's your simultaneously. This is 1 and this is 2. Now, if I'm writing the second one, I'm writing it, I'll just rewrite it here because I do elimination. And can you see how I use that algebra? Okay, and then I'm just saying, oh, but this will be 2a. So I must go and I must change this a little bit. Let's multiply with a negative because I just want it negative. So if I do that, then I'm going to get 4 is equal to negative a plus, no, not plus, minus 8d. Okay, that's still equation 1. Just change it a little bit. And then let's write equation 2 again. And negative 19 equals a plus 13d. Okay. Now, okay, this is what I want. I want cancelling out. And now, if I'm going to get negative 15. Do you see? And this one, it's going to be 13. It's going to be 5d. The d is here, so I divide 5, not by 15, where the variable is, 5. So the value of d will be what? Negative 3. Do you see? And then I must still get, and I'm just going to do it here, I must still get the value of a. And now I just substitute in any. So let's substitute in 2. So negative 4 equals a plus 8d. So it's negative 4 equals a plus 8 negative 3. So negative 4 equals a minus 24. So a is equal to negative 4 plus 24. And the value of a will be, okay, I'm going to make that step. Therefore, the value of a will be equal to 20. Okay, now let's just read the question. We're not finished. So we got D and we got A. Go back always to word sums. Read the question again. What is the question saying? Determine the fifth term. Okay, so I'm not done. I'm going to now continue. That's why it's 5 marks. And I'm going to say T5 is equal, and I'm using again, I use again this because it's not sum. I use again that formula. So what is the value of, sorry. Just because I'm moving it so much. I use again this formula. Okay. Now, what is the value of A? I have it, 20. What's the value of D? Negative 3. what's the value of n? That is the value of n, standing usually there. And that is equal to 20, and this is going to be, this is easy. This is minus 3 and times 4, and that's 20 minus 12, and that is going to be 8. And I end nice. I usually like to end word sums nice. It's actually supposed to. So therefore, the fifth term is 8. And that's the final answer. Okay, that's how you do it. Not so difficult. But first run through the basics and then tackle the sums. Let's do the next one. Okay, number 6. I first want to get enough space and clean everything. And now I'm at number 6. Number 6. Okay, and then I write the sequence, and it's 1 to 8. Okay, let's make it another color. It's 1 to 8 and 64 and 32. Okay? And they tell you it's a GP. They don't have to tell you. You must always do the test. For a GP, it will be 2t and... Okay. So determine the 10th term. It's Tn. Okay, check here. Can I show you? There is Tn. You have to memorize these formulas. Okay, so what is my formula? It's going to be Tn equals A or n minus 1. Okay, so don't forget the value of A. What is the value of A? 1 to 8. What is the value of R? It's T2 divided T1. So if you are going to say that 64 divided by 128, you can say T2 divided T1. So 64 divided 128, and that's a half. Oh, 32 divided 64 is a half. And what's the value of n? What did they say? What term? The 10. So n is 10. And I just substitute. So they want me to get T10. And in the value of A, I put 1 to 8. And in the value of R, they put a half. And then n is 10 minus 1. So it's 1 to 8, a half to the power of 9. So it's 1 to 8, and it's, you can work it on the calculator out. I don't even think, you have to work it with indices. I just want to do it with the calculator. So make a bracket, say 0.5, close the bracket. I prefer to press that first, to the power 9 equals, multiply 1 to 8 equals. And I get 0.25, but it's also, or if somebody is getting a quarter, you are also correct. And then number B is my final one. I'm so glad. Determine the sum. So I must go, I'll show you again. I must go to the sum. Now I know that R is a half. So I will put the ones in front, the one that's the bigger. If R was 2 or 3, which then I would have put the R in front. So I'm going to work with this one. Okay. So let's just go back. And I'm just going to move it a little bit up. And I'm going to say 6b. And I'm just going to start with the formula. So it's going to be Sn equals A, and I put the ones in front. Okay, and I know that the value of A is 1 to 8. I know the value of R is a half. Okay, and I know it's to the power of 10. And it's 1 minus a half. Okay, and again, you can just press it on your calculator. I just prefer sometimes to first do the bracket, same, and I prefer to work with 0.5. So if I press it on the calculator, I will say, but you have very good calculators and you can just put it in. So, and most of you know your calculators very well. So I would say 1 minus bracket 0.5 or 1 divided 2, close the bracket, to the power 10 equals. And then I multiply it with 128. Then I multiply. And then this is 0. Then I divide it by 0.5. And what do you get? I get 255.75. It's exact. It's not going on. So if it's like this and it stops, I just rewrite that. I don't approximate it to 3 significant figures. Okay. And that's how you do sequences. Usually they ask it on this level, very straightforward. Just make sure you know your formulas. Just make sure you know what the different values stands for, A, R, D, N, and just do a few basic ones. And I think it's going to be easy in the examination.